Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Annie Talks English. I'm so happy you're here because today's episode is one that's deeply personal to me. We're going to talk about a book that didn't just change how I work or how I plan my life, it changed how I see myself and how I see the world. That book is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. I know, it's one of those titles we've all heard about. Maybe it's been sitting on your shelf for years. Or maybe you've read it once and thought, yeah, I get it. Good habits, great people. But the truth is, this book is not really about habits. It's about a revolution. A revolution that starts from the inside and ripples outward into every part of your life. And today, I want to take you on my personal journey through that revolution, how these 7 habits didn't just organize my schedule, but realigned my soul. Let's start from the beginning. When I first picked up the 7 habits, I was in that phase of life where I felt like I was busy all the time, yet somehow still behind. I was doing everything right, working hard, staying positive, ticking boxes, but inside, I felt off balance, like I was chasing goals that didn't actually feed me. I wanted results, but what I really needed was renewal. Back then, I was obsessed with what Covey calls the personality ethic. You know, all the how to be confident, how to look successful, how to win people over stuff. I thought I could patch the holes inside me with quick techniques, a smile here, a quote there, a productivity app, another late-night grind session. But reading Covey stopped me cold. He said, "The way we see the problem is the problem." And that hit me hard, because what if I wasn't just working with the wrong tools, but following the wrong map? Covey talks about paradigms, the mental maps we use to interpret the world. And if the map is wrong, it doesn't matter how hard you drive, you'll never reach your destination. That's when I realized my life wasn't broken. My lens was. I was chasing secondary greatness, success, status, validation, while neglecting primary greatness, integrity, humility, character. The stuff that's invisible but anchors everything. Covey's message was radical. You don't change the fruit by polishing it, you change the root. And that means working from the inside out. That's what this revolution is about, shifting from image to integrity, from quick fixes to timeless principles, from trying to look effective to becoming effective. The first 3 habits in Covey's book are called the private victory. They're not about managing people, they're about managing yourself. Because before you can lead others, you have to learn to lead you. Habit 1, be proactive. I remember the first time I really felt this habit in action. I was dealing with a tough situation. Someone had criticized my work unfairly. My instinct was to defend, to explain, to control how they saw me. But then I remembered Covey's line. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom to choose. So I paused. In that space, I asked myself, what do I want to stand for right now? I realized that my power didn't lie in changing their opinion, it lay in changing my response. Being proactive means taking ownership of your choices, your emotions, your energy. It's the difference between reacting and responding. Reactive people focus on what they can't control, the economy, the weather, other people's moods. Proactive people focus on what they can, their attitude, their effort, their values. That shift from blaming to owning was like stepping into sunlight after years in a fog. It's not easy, but it's freedom. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. This one changed my life the most, because for years I was climbing fast, but the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. Covey invites us to visualize our own funeral, to imagine what people would say about us, what kind of legacy we'd leave. It sounds morbid, but it's actually one of the most clarifying exercises you can do. When I did it, I realized something uncomfortable. I wanted people to remember me not for being busy or successful, but for being kind, intentional, and real. That moment helped me redefine my personal mission statement, a statement that became my internal compass. Mine says, to live with clarity, speak with courage, and lift others through understanding. Every time I get lost in the noise, I return to that statement. It reminds me of who I want to be, not just what I want to do. Because success without significance is hollow, and purpose without action is just poetry. Habit 3. Now this is where it gets practical. Habit 3 is about discipline, time management, and courage. It's taking that beautiful mission statement from Habit 2 and turning it into daily action. Covey says we spend too much time in what he calls Quadrant 1, urgent and important, or even worse, Quadrant 3, urgent but not important. But the magic happens in Quadrant 2, important but not urgent. Things like planning, learning, exercising, connecting, things that build the future but don't scream for attention. I started to schedule my days around those. 1 hour every morning for renewal, 1 deep, intentional check-in with someone I love each week, 1 act of courage every month, saying yes to something that scared me a little. And slowly, my days began to feel less like firefighting and more like creation. That's what private victory feels like. Quiet, deliberate, foundational. It's the sound of your life finally starting to align.
Once you've built independence, you're ready for the next phase, interdependence. This is where your inner strength meets the world. And here, Covey gives us habits 4, 5, and 6, the habits that transform relationships. The emotional bank account. Before diving into the habits, Covey introduces this beautiful metaphor, the emotional bank account. Every interaction with someone is a transaction, a deposit, or a withdrawal. Kindness, honesty, keeping promises, these are deposits. Disrespect, gossip, broken trust, withdrawals. And the more you invest, the more resilient your relationship becomes. I remember one coworker I used to struggle with. We disagreed on almost everything. But instead of trying to win, I started focusing on making small deposits. Listening more, following through, acknowledging effort. Over time, something shifted. The tension faded, replaced by mutual respect. Trust, I learned, is not built in a day. It's built daily. Habit 4. Think win-win. Win-win isn't a compromise, it's creation. It's the belief that there's enough for everyone. Most of us grow up thinking life is a zero-sum game. If you win, I lose. But abundance thinking says your success expands mine. This habit changed how I approached collaboration. Instead of asking, how can I get what I want, I started asking, how can we both win? And honestly, the energy shifted immediately because people can feel when you're not competing with them, but building with them. It takes integrity, maturity, and an abundance mindset, and those come from the private victory we talked about earlier. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. If I had to pick the single hardest and most powerful habit, this would be it. Because let's be real, most of us don't listen to understand, we listen to reply. Covey calls it empathic listening. Listening not to fix, not to advise, but to truly understand the other person's world. I practiced this once with a friend who was going through a tough time. Instead of jumping in with advice, I just said, "Tell me more." And I listened without agenda. By the end, she didn't need answers. She just needed to feel seen. That's when I understood what Covey meant when he said, being influenceable is the key to influencing others. When people feel understood, they open their hearts, and that's where real communication begins. Habit 6, synergize. Now, this is where the magic happens. Synergy means 1 + 1 = 3. It's when differences stop being threats and start being strengths. It's when you stop trying to control and start trying to create together. I experienced synergy in a team project once. We were all so different in personality and ideas that it felt chaotic at first. But once we leaned into our strengths, something incredible happened. The final result was better than anything any of us could have done alone. Synergy feels like electricity. It's the spark that lights up innovation, art, connection, even love. Part 4. Renewal, the upward spiral. Habit 7 is called sharpen the saw, and it's the one that keeps the whole system alive. Because you can't keep giving if you don't keep growing. Covey says we must renew ourselves in 4 dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. For me, that looked like this. Physical. I started taking early morning walks again, not for steps or calories, but for clarity. Spiritual. I returned to journaling, prayer, and reading things that lift my soul. Mental. I made a rule: 1 book a month, something that challenges how I think. Social emotional. I learned to nurture the relationships that nurture me. Renewal isn't about indulgence, it's about investment. Every hour you spend sharpening your saw multiplies your ability to serve, love, and create. And here's the truth. When you live the 7 habits, you don't reach an endpoint. You enter what Covey calls the upward spiral. You keep learning, practicing, failing, forgiving, and rising, again and again.
There's a phrase Covey used that still gives me chills. Live life in crescendo. It means your best work, your most meaningful contribution, your deepest growth is always ahead of you. And that's how I try to live now. Not as someone who's arrived, but someone who's evolving. I've learned that effectiveness isn't about control. It's about alignment. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. And I've learned that growth, real growth, is quiet. It starts in the heart, not the calendar. It's that whisper that says, start where you are. Begin again. So if you're listening to this right now, maybe tired or lost or just trying to keep it together, I want you to know you don't need to change everything. You just need to change the way you see. Start with 1 habit, 1 decision, 1 act of integrity. And then watch your world shift from the inside out. Because when you work on your roots, your branches will take care of themselves. Thank you so much for joining me today on Annie Talks English. I hope you'll take Covey's challenge, the 30-day test of proactivity. Work only in your circle of influence. Admit mistakes quickly and be a model, not a critic. And most importantly, live your life in crescendo. Because the best is not behind you, it's ahead. Until next time, my friends, stay intentional, stay inspired, and keep growing from the inside out.